Let's start.
I can miss that part. That's, you know, where I tell you what the ingredients are in beer. But I'll pass that up and we'll go straight to it. Most brewers have a silo. There was a miscommunication in between the city of Grapevine and us when we were building, and we told them we were going to be the biggest brew pub in the Metroplex. They thought brewery, just like Budweiser, Miller, anybody. So they saw this massive brewery out here in these silos, you know, 3-4 stories tall, and they were back in the dark ages still thinking, we don't want any explosions or anything, so no silo. Well, we explained to them the difference anymore, that doesn't happen and whatnot. Way after it was, construction was going, so we didn't get a silo. But that gives me a nice workout program. I get to bring all my grain in 50-pound bags, offload it downstairs onto a cart, 1,000 pounds at a time, bring it back up here and unload it in the shelves. So if I get in 13,000 pounds, I move 26,000.
Yeah.
Okay?
Mm.
Anyway, when I'm ready to brew, I'll take all my grain bags and lay them right there in front of the shelves here. Cut them open. My mill's in the closet. I'll take a picture of this. It's dirty. But I'm crushing the grain. It's going to run through the small tubes you see. And it goes up into the hopper over the mash tun. I have a hot liquor tank, a cold liquor tank. A hot liquor goes into the beer, it starts the beer. The cold liquor finishes the beer, but it doesn't go into it, except for our naked. That's what we cut it down to make it a light beer. And we treat it with acid.
How does it move the grain? Is it air? Or?
That's what they call a cable vase system. You see it, those little plastic discs on the cable, and just pulls it up.
Okay.
I prefer either a conveyor system or an auger. The conveyor is better. Certain brewers say this disturbs the grain too much.
Okay.
I mean, you run it through a grinder, how much more can you not disturb it, you know?
Exactly.
I mean, what's it gonna do? No, I ain't letting you have my starch, you know?
Your mill, how many rollers in your mill? Is it,
Two rollers. And I actually crush it. I don't want to fine flour.
Right.
You know, you just want to crush it, break it open, get the husk off of it, to make it easier to extract the starch. But as I get whatever I can fit up there, some of my grain bills are a little higher. I can only fit so much in there. So I'll start it going and then crush the rest of it, and it's going to go in there. But in my mash tun, there is an agitator. The bottom paddle is about 10 inches off the bottom of the vessel. The other is about 2/3 the way up. When my hot water reaches that bottom paddle, I'll start the grain in. The grain's coming in right there. As you can see, the water's coming in right there also. So as the grain's coming in, it's being hydrated immediately, starting the process of extracting the starch from the grain. Also in the grain, there's an enzyme. Once it gets in that hot water for a few minutes, it converts that starch to sugar. This liquid is called wort, W-O-R-T. It's going to stay in the mash tun for 45 minutes, getting beat up in there, getting all that starch out, just what you've seen out there so far.
Okay. The agitator's like a paddle.
Yeah, just paddles. It's just going to beat everything up, keep it moving so it's not going to scorch. Although you only scorch when I'm going to ramp up. And it depends on how much grain in there, if it's going to scorch or not. But scorching really never has hurt the flavor of the beer, because there's only so much will scorch. 45 minutes in the mash tun, then I'm going to pump it all. Everything over here to the lauter tun. The lauter tun has a false bottom in it. It's slotted, it's cut. Basically to separate the liquid from the grain. Even though I don't want flour, from friction, I still get flour. And it likes to come out of the mash tun first and come into the bottom of the lauter tun. So for the first 15 minutes I've got it in the lauter tun, I just pump it right back over the top of the grain bed. The mud's going to stay on top of the grain bed. The grain bed's going to be a natural filter. And I can tell if I'm down here, I can tell from this is a board-off bubble. I also have a sight glass up on the platform if I'm up there. But generally 15 minutes is all it takes. After that 15 minutes, I start coming over to the brew kettle. The runoff from the brew kettle, from the lauter tun to the brew kettle is anywhere from 1.5 hours to 2 hours normal. If I'm using a lot of wheat, or say a lot of rye, or even very fresh grain, we'll pack that bed a little bit harder, make it a little harder to get the wort extracted, but generally an hour and a half to 2 hours. About the time I've got the yield of wort I need in my brew kettle, it's just about at a 212 boil. It's going to boil about 207, 208 because of the density's been changed of the sugar conversion. But I'll take my brew time from 212. When it hits 212, I add the first addition of hops. We use hop pellet, we don't use a whole hop here. Whole hops take up a lot of space. So it's easier to use a pellet. When they go into the boil, they break up into real fine flakes. It's going to boil for 1 hour. I'm going to turn the heat off at the second addition of hops, which